Metroidvania type tile games are great. I love them personally. They're really big maps, interconnected, gives you the opportunity to go back and explore areas that you weren't able to explore previously. It's just a lot of fun. But one Metroidvania style type game that stands above the rest, and a game that I almost didn't play, is Hollow Knight. I wasn't very interested in it because looking at the gameplay for it and the art style, it didn't look like a game that was going to be, extremely hard along with like Soulsborne type games, but it 100% is. It's extremely hard and wildly fun. I would say that this game is harder than probably most From Software games out there, and I would say that this ranks as one of my favorite games probably ever. It's in my top 5, top 10 list, definitely. If you don't know what a Metroidvania type game is, that's perfectly fine. I'll let you know right now. So it's a game that has a really big map with a bunch of interconnected areas, but some areas are blocked off because you need certain abilities or a certain key or something like that to come back and then explore that new area. It's a combination of two games that really drove this genre, which of course being Metroid and Castlevania. Back to Hollow Knight though. The map in this game is massive, and each area has such a distinct feeling to it. They all look super different, and obviously the art style in each area and the music that comes along with it really just sets everything apart. For example, we have Fog Canyon, which is very, I want to say kind of light and playful with, those kind of warmer colors and that kind of chill music with it. Each of these places just have massively different feelings to them. The art style of this game really helps this though with how simple it is, because it's very cartoonish and it really helps the areas and the game as a whole stand out from other games in this genre, or just in general, honestly. The game usually has its high zones, areas like Green Path or the Queen's Garden. They're just areas that are so pretty, so full of life and full of color, and the music really demonstrates that. Since the game is a Metroidvania type tile game, as we're exploring the map, we're finding areas that we can't get to yet because we don't have whatever skill we need, whether it be the double jump or the climbing on walls. Team Cherry does a fantastic job of making the whole world feel connected and just intertwined. As we make our way through new areas and noting spots down that we can't get to yet, it's so exciting to be able to come back and actually do that. It's a great way of adding replayability to the game and the map and those specific areas. These places can have Geo, which is the money in the game, charms, which we'll get to, or even whole new side areas and side bosses in the game. The gameplay is a little simplistic, but I think it adds to the game. So you have one melee weapon, which is your nail, and you can strike in front of you, below you, and above you. And then you have your kind of spells, which are like a fireball and stuff like that. And you have a spell that can shoot in front of you, a dive bomb that dives below you, and a blast that blasts above you. And that is all you have. That's all you have. It's nothing crazy at all. It's just two different buttons and moving the joystick in different directions. But it makes the game fun and not complex. The game isn't about having complex moves or complex shit like that. It's about your positioning and where you are on this 2D screen and really thinking about going on the offense or the defense. It's a 2D platformer. Going from platform to platform is what we're going to be focusing on. Being simplistic isn't a bad thing. The combat is really fun, and being a master at jumping around your enemies and bobbing and weaving makes you feel like a real badass. Being hit and not being hit, jumping around is crazy. It reminds me of a similar feeling that Sekiro made me feel. And then mixing in the spells and the nail arts just all together, it feels like an art form. One thing I like that this game does is it's pretty hard, obviously, and we're going to get into, why it's hard. But all the deaths feel like it's your fault, and nothing like the game is janky or the game is fucked. When you get hit, you know why you got hit, and when you die, you know why you died and why you fucked up. And you are hoping that you can obviously fix that mistake and make sure it doesn't happen in the future. We have a limited amount of masks in the game. And our masks are basically just, they're our hearts. And at the end of the game, with all of our mask shards collected, we can be hit 9 times before we die. That's a pretty good amount of hits to take before we die. Healing, though, can be a little difficult because you have to stand there in one position, not moving, defenseless, for 3 or 4 seconds, trying to heal. And when you do that, that's going to immediately trigger the fucking boss's aggro, and they're going to bum rush your ass. It's super easy to be anxious or nervous when you're low in health because, you want to hit the boss so they can be stunned so you can heal yourself. You might go for, an ill-attempted heal or, some fucking bunch of attacks to try to stun the opponent. And you die because it's all about timing. The game is just completely about timing. Being hit and not being hit. Simple, right? The game is also extremely customizable with charms. They're kind of like power-ups, and they give you different abilities. There's a lot of them, and a lot of different ones that do different things. Some of them are basic, like making your melee weapon, making the hitbox longer, or giving you more health. Or we have some ones that are a little bit different, like when you get hit, you have thorns that come out of your body that hurt the enemy. They're really fun to play around with and figure out fun combinations to use because sometimes the charms will kind of interact with each other to make a really powerful ability. It gives the game a sense of replayability because you can play the game with one charm build and then play the game a second time with another charm build and have it a completely different experience because you can go for a more nail-based melee attack type of playthrough, and then you can go for a more spell-based kind of playthrough. It's really different. For example, of these fun combinations though that you can use, we have one charm that's like the swarm of bees type thing that attack your enemy, and we have another charm that makes you stink, and it excretes the smell that damages your enemy whenever you get close to them. And if you have the bees and the stinky charm active at the same time, the bees will be stinky as well and will be doing double damage. And I know a lot of people who have beaten the game with just this charm combination alone. Now, I want to move on to the bosses, and the bosses for this game are amazing. There's a lot of them, so I'm only going to scratch the surface on the ones that I personally love the most. Personally, we have the White Defender, the Sisters of Battle, and the Great Nail Sage Sly himself. The White Defender has a really fun personality to him. He's funny as hell, while also being really fast and really difficult. All the sounds he makes when he's going around and doing all that shit, it's great. He throws a lot of dung balls out, bouncing around, and then he'll bounce around, and it's really hard to fucking position yourself and maneuver and try to hit him while not being fucking smacked around by him and all that he has going on at once. Super tough, but very fun fight. Then the Sisters of Battle and the Great Nail Sage Sly, they both feel like dances. Bobbing and weaving around all three of the sisters at once it's beautiful. Then fighting Sly is like fighting a great master who throws every nail technique at you that you've ever learned throughout the whole game. This is the true battle between the master and the student here. Now, I would like to move on to the DLC for this game. And it does a lot for Hollow Knight. I mean a fucking shit ton for this game. It also adds in a boss that you might be like, Taco, if you already know, how could you be forgetting this boss and how could he not be one of your favorite bosses? Oh, well. He actually is my favorite boss among all of Hollow Knight, and that is, of course, the GOAT himself, Grim. And it also adds in another boss and a mode that I would say is harder than any boss I have ever fought, and I mean including Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and yeah, even Elden Ring. I'm talking about you, fucking Orphan of Kos, and you, Melania, yeah. Harder than both of the two. Let's cover Grim first, though, before we get into that craziness. We meet Grim in the main hub for the game, and we do these little side quests for him that give us, honestly, a pretty good charm. And we're going to need it to fight him. The quest to fight him is fun, and we need to upgrade a charm. While doing it, we need to collect these flames for him, run that by killing these kind of like mini bosses. And after we collect 2 sets of flames, we get to fight the main man himself and collect our third and final flame. Grim is really fast, he's agile, and he has a good amount of close range attacks that are extremely fast, and also a variety of long range attacks that can be really hard to dodge. The uppercut that he throws out can be hard to react to, and then when he does the little spikes on the ground where they all shoot up, it's difficult and fast. The bats that he shoots out of his cape are honestly, I think, probably some of the most fun moves to dodge through in the whole game. He's a hard boss. Not super crazy, but still very hard. He's a good challenge. If you want a crazy boss though, after you beat him, you can dream nail him. And if you do this fight, this is what I would say is the third hardest fight in all of Hollow Knight, and that is the Nightmare King Grim. I mean, look at him. He even looks more intimidating because he's like dressed in all red now. And I mean, look at that. That fit is hard as fuck. So to start off, every attack is faster. And he also isn't present for every attack that he was previously. Like the spike attack, he's not there so you can hit him now. So basically, his fit is fresh as hell. He looks more intimidating. He is fast as shit. And he also isn't present in places that he would be previously. Oh yeah, of course. How can I forget that he also does 2 masks instead of 1? So he hits like a fucking truck. So just like this fireball attack, every time it hits you, it does 2 masks, which is fucking insane. I think you can just see why this is so fucking hard. It's a super fun fight and really enjoyable. And speaking of Nightmare King Grim, that's one thing I love that this game does. It does optional bosses of old bosses or some new bosses that are normally extremely hard to fight. Having the Dream Nail, I think, is such a smart idea. It is a great way to add new content to the game, to bring back old bosses and expand their lore, and bring in some new bosses, and just expand the lore of Hollow Nest in general. I love it so much. It's such a smart idea, and it does so much for the game. Now, time for what you've been waiting for. What I personally think is one of the hardest things in gaming ever. And that is the Pantheon. In particular, the Pantheon of Hollow Nest. So we have to go through 4 Pantheons first, and these 4 are just a small collection of bosses they have to fight, and fight a kind of more difficult boss at the end, and they're normally like 10 fights probably. Some of the bosses are easy, and then some are hard, but after we beat all 4, we can finally fight the Pantheon of Hollow Nest. So I don't want to hear any Soulsborne fan fucking crying about a run back ever again, because this is the worst run back ever. So basically you have to fight 41 bosses in a row, then fight the real final boss. So that means we have to fight 42 bosses here. That's the average runtime for this final boss is like 45 minutes. 45 fucking minutes to get one attempt at the final boss, which, by the way, is the hardest boss in the game. This boss is the absolute radiance. It has plenty of different attacks that it can throw at you, like walls of spikes, light balls that can track you, it can shoot spikes in a circle, walls of light, it can make fucking spikes on the floor. Just all these attacks are extremely fast, and it can throw multiple of these attacks out you at the same fucking time, making you dodge, spikes on the floor and a wall of spikes coming at you, or spikes on the floor and fucking ball lights coming at you. It's dumb as hell. Oh, and did I mention that, of course, every time you get hit, you take 2 masks? Because let's just make this even fucking harder. This boss is crazy, and I think you can tell just by the gameplay. And also, this boss has 6 phases. The run back and the actual boss itself, I think, make it the most difficult boss ever. It's insane. At the end of it, though, I think what makes Hollow Knight really special is the map, the lore, and the characters. Exploring the map and just getting to run around and get lost and all of it is truly amazing and a ton of fun. Running around and finding the hidden areas, trying to find everything you can. It might take a while, but it's great. Also, how Team Cherry comes back to old areas and updates them throughout the game, I think, is truly special. Like in the Forgotten Crossroads, which is the first area of the game we go in, if you come back like halfway to 3/4 of the way through the game, it's now the Infected Crossroads, because the infection is spreading throughout Hollow Nest and to all the creatures that live there. It's familiar, obviously, because it's the same layout, but different because of all the infection and blocking off areas that we could go to previously and adding in a bunch of new areas and changing the way it looks. Hollow Nest is an abandoned kingdom, and making your way throughout the game and actually getting to meet characters that we can talk to and interact with that aren't hostile, it makes you really connect with them, and they're very notable. Like Sly, which, yes, is the same Sly as the great Master Sly. He's great, and obviously, like a master. Then we have Hornet, who's a character we fight and interact with throughout the whole game, and she's like one of the only friends we can relate to trying to stop the infection. The last stag is a mode of transportation, but as we open up more areas, we get to talk to him more and more, and it's just nice to see him talk, and he's great at giving lore about how the kingdom was before the infection, and seeing him reminisce about old places, I think is really cool personally. But everyone's favorite character, the GOAT himself, the best NPC ever, is Cornifer. He sells maps throughout the game in new areas, and you know he's there when you can hear his humming. It kind of sounds like this. Very memorable, and when you find him, he's super nice and funny. Getting to talk to him throughout the game is an absolute honor. And after we buy all of the maps, we can come back to the home base where his wife's at, and seeing him sleep in his shop after his job is done, the hardworking man can finally get some rest after his long fucking journey. At the end, Hollow Knight is a very hard game where we can just get lost and spend tens, if not hundreds of hours just in the world alone. Finding and exploring every secret this game has to offer really is the true beauty here. The art style and the music do, I would say, just so much for this game. It does so much, and it really helps blend everything together on your journey and really make everything just so memorable. The few characters we meet and the bosses really just make the experience. And I think Hollow Knight is, in my opinion, the best Metroidvania style game ever made. I left out a lot of the game, like some actual lore like the Pale King and, the actual infection itself, what is going on in Hollow Nest. I left out some bosses as well, like the actual Hollow Knight himself, what the game is named after. But I think that is best left for your experience and your journey through Hollow Nest. So please, go out there, play this game for yourself, because it is truly an amazing experience. Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video on Hollow Knight. If you did, please make sure go down and leave a like. Comment what you thought of the video, and how do you like Hollow Knight? Have you ever played it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if you do, okay? And then subscribe, because if you fucking don't, I swear to God, I will stick you in Hollow Knight in the infection, and I'm gonna make you fight the fucking the Pantheon just by yourself. You're going to do it by yourself, like you as a person, and I don't think you want to do that, because I don't even think you'll get to the absolute radiance. I don't think you'll get past the first boss. You won't do it. So go down and click subscribe. Click it, please. But I hope that you, yes, you right there, have a fucking tastic day. And of course, guys, like always, deuces.